Prudent Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Good day everybody. I welcome you all for today's session. Today I will be covering the second chapter of economics of standard 10, that is the sectors of the Indian economy. So let us try to first understand what is an economic activity. When we produce any goods or we render services and we earn income or money, that is called an economic activity. So in short, when we earn money or when we get income by producing goods or by rendering services, that is called an economic activity. In our day-to-day life, we see people performing different economic activities. Some of them I will show on the screen now. As you can see here, that in these pictures you can see that they are practicing farming. So they are producing goods in the form of crops. Then in this picture you can see here that pharmaceutical companies, they are producing medicines. Then constructional activity is going on where we construct buildings and houses. So these are all economic activities. We can also see here in this case that economic activity is performed here, and health workers, they are profusely involved in helping people to fight the pandemic, that is corona. They are playing a very important role in fighting this disease. Okay, so here you can see that people are giving different services. They are engaged in different work. In this first picture you can see the sales girl. Then here you can see the fruit vendor selling fruits. Coolie performing his duty of helping people to carry the load. Delivery boy, who are playing very important role today in giving us and delivering different goods to us, providing these goods to us. So they are involved in different economic activities, and these economic activities are happening around us every minute. One way of understanding these economic activities is to group these economic activities using certain criteria, classify them using certain criteria. And when we classify these economic activities using certain criteria, we call it as sector. Okay? So when we classify or group economic activities by using some important criteria, then it is called sector. Okay, so today we are going to study the sectors of the Indian economy. Now the sectors we can classify the economic activities into different groups using different criteria. There are several ways we can do it. Okay, the first way we are going to look at it is the nature of activity or how the goods are produced. Now, goods, when we say the nature of activity, we are classifying economic activities into three main groups. First is the primary sector, second is the secondary sector, and the third is the tertiary sector. Now let us first understand what is primary sector. As you can see in this picture, there is sunlight, soil, rainfall. These are all natural resources, these are all natural factors. And when we use these natural factors to produce a natural product, in this case here it is cotton, which is shown on your screen, then it is called the activity of the primary sector. So In short, when we produce a product using natural resources, then it is called an activity of the primary sector, and the product is called a natural product. Here in this case it is, again it is, I am repeating, it is cotton. Now, we also have a natural product called milk, which we obtain from cow and other animals. But it is obtained because of a biological process. But again, the cows also require, and other animals also require fodder. So, fodder and this biological product again are part of natural, are formed due to natural processes. So, therefore, the product milk which we get is a part of the primary sector because it's a natural product. Then the minerals which we extract from the rocks are also formed due to different geological processes which are again natural, they are not man-made. So therefore, minerals, ores are also part of the primary activity or primary sector. So in short, when we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of the primary sector. Is it clear? I repeat again, when we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of the primary sector. Now, primary sector, it is called primary sector is actually named primary because it forms the base for all other products which will be subsequently made. What do I mean by that? Let's take this example. I have a sunflower on my screen and I have the sunflower oil here. Sunflower is a natural product which is a part of primary sector. But when I extract oil, I will be using it subsequently for other products. If I want to make any snack, let us take a samosa. I will use this oil to fry that samosa. Okay. So, all other products which will be subsequently made, those products will have this base. Okay. Therefore, all the products which are natural products, they are the part of the primary sector or primary activity. Now, this sector is also called the agriculture and related sector because most of the products which are natural products which we get from primary activities are from either agriculture, fishing, okay, forestry, dairy. So therefore, this sector, that is the primary sector, is also called agriculture and related sector. So now let us move on to the next sector, that is secondary sector. Now in secondary sector what we do is, we actually change the form of the natural product. We change the form of the natural product, okay, through a process of manufacturing by using machines. And we change the form of the product and we manufacture another product out of that. Okay. So all the activities which cover and which are involved in changing the natural form or correction which are involved in changing the form of the natural product, they are part of the secondary sector. And this is done through a process called manufacturing. Okay, it's a manufacturing process where we use machines and we change the form of the product to make another product which will be mostly of a higher value and of more utility to us. Okay, so let us take an example. I'll just read the definition for you all again. The secondary sector covers activity in which the natural product are changed into other forms through a way of manufacturing or processing that we associate with industrial activities. So here industries play a very important role. For example, as you can see on your screen, towards the left, we have sugarcane, we have sugar, which is the product which is manufactured after changing the form of the original product, that is sugarcane. Okay, so this is one example. Then another example we can take here is again I'll take sugarcane, where we extract sugarcane juice using this very simple machine, where the form of the original product, that is sugarcane, is changed and it is turned into juice by extracting juice by using this machine. So this is an activity of the secondary sector. Okay, we'll take one more example where cotton is produced, which is a natural product, and then cotton is taken from the fields to the industries or factories, where cotton is turned into cloth through processing. There are different stages of processing, and then again further stage we have the cloth which is turned into a shirt or maybe a pant or any other item which is sold in the ready-made garment shops. One more example we'll take here, where earth is turned into bricks, okay, and then cement is manufactured in cement factories, and then bricks and cement is used to build houses. So this sector gradually becomes associated with different kinds of industries that came up. Therefore this sector is also called industrial sector. So the next sector is the tertiary sector. Now tertiary sector is that sector which helps primary and secondary sector to conduct its activities. As you can see on your screen, the activities that help in development of primary and secondary sector are called as tertiary sector. So tertiary sector gives aid and support to the primary and the secondary sector. And examples of tertiary sector are transport, communication, banking, trade. Now you have to remember one thing, that tertiary sector does not produce any goods. It is only giving services. Therefore, this sector is called the service sector. I'll just give you some examples here. Again, I'll go back to cotton production, which is cotton is the natural product. Now, once cotton is produced, it has to be transported to the factories. And to transport cotton to the factories, you will require maybe a vehicle. In this case here, it is a truck, or you will require to store it in the godown. And in this process, you may also require other services like communication, where you will be using your cell phones, computers, or the manufacturer or the industrialist may require services of the bank to get loan, to deposit money, to make payments. And finally, when the product is ready, it has to be sold in the market. So you require a shop or a showroom. So all these people who are involved in all these activities are actually giving service to the primary and the secondary sector. So tertiary sector is that sector which provides service to the primary and secondary sector. Therefore, this sector is called the service sector. Now in this sector, there are many people are involved. Okay. Now what you see on your screen is a picture of a very famous doctor in Goa, Dr. Edwin Gomes, who is also known as the COVID warrior, who has been at the forefront in fighting coronavirus in the state of Goa, who has treated and cured many corona patients. So he has also offered his valuable services to us in fighting coronavirus. So although he may not be producing any goods, but he is delivering some very, very essential services. Okay. Likewise, all the doctors, the medical staff, the health department, the health workers, they are all providing us very, very essential services. The teachers in the school are very busy imparting education to their students, and they have devised various ways, unique ways of imparting ways to impart education to the children. So everybody is playing their part. So service sector in this situation is playing a very, very important role. The pharmacists, the policemen, the chemists who are working round the clock to help the people, they are providing some very, very valuable services. The lawyers, then we have other people who are giving services to us, like we have our washermen, we have delivery boys, we have so many other people who are helping us in our day-to-day life. So all these people, they are giving us services. But recently, some services which are related to IT have become very important. Okay. As you can see, there are many other people also are giving us services like shopkeepers, fruit vendors. But there are certain services which are based on information technology such as internet, ATM, which is a very important source to withdraw your own money from the bank. Call centers, software companies, these are also part of the service sector or the tertiary sector, which is playing a very, very important role in helping the people. Although they are not producing any goods, but they are also very, very essential in building the society, in building and developing our country. So, as we have discussed, there are three sectors. First is primary sector. What you have to remember here is, in primary sector, we produce goods by exploiting natural resources or by using natural resources. In the secondary sector, we have the economic activities related to converting natural resources into other forms. And in the tertiary sector, the economic activities that generate service instead of goods. So you have to remember, primary sector is called agriculture and related sector. Secondary sector is called the industrial sector, and the tertiary sector is called the service sector. Now we have discussed all these sectors. Okay, all these sectors, although they are separate, they are interdependent on each other. They cannot survive actually without each other. Take an example where farmer refuses to sell sugarcane to sugar mill or particular factory. The sugar factory or the sugar mill will not be able to operate. So the secondary sector is dependent on the primary sector. We'll take another example. Let us say industrialists decide not to buy cotton from Indian farmers. What will be the position of the farmers? They will have great financial difficulties, and they will have very less number of buyers, and the price of the cotton will fall. Another situation where transporters or truck owners go on strike. Farmers will not be able to sell their product in different places. Another situation where farmer stops buying a product from industries. So the industries will suffer. So all these sectors are interdependent on each other. Now how do we compare these three sectors? We need to compare these three sectors. Okay. Now in every sector, production is done. Maybe in some sectors the production is more, in some sectors the production is less. Every sector is playing its own role. At some point of time, one sector will be dominant in terms of production as well as in terms of employment. So we need to compare these three sectors. Now how to compare these three sectors? The first thing we need to know is which sector is producing more or which sector is producing how much goods and which sector is employing how many people. So let us focus first on production. How do we find out which sector is producing? How do we find out which sector is producing more? Should we count each and every item that is being produced or manufactured? Will it make sense to count each and every item? Or should we take the value of the goods that are produced or services that are generated? And the economists suggest that the value of the goods and services should be added rather than adding up the actual number. For example, if 10,000 kgs of wheat is produced, it will make sense to multiply it by its price and take the value rather than just adding up the quantity, because wheat may have different qualities. Okay. So rather than adding up numbers, we should add up the value. Okay. And when we add up the value, we should take value of the final goods and services. Okay, I'll just give you an example here. Let us say you go to a shop or to a let us say you go to a cold drink center and you ask for a fresh lime soda. What are the ingredients which will be required? Ingredients will be a lime, sugar, okay, then soda. Will you pay separately for this? No, you are paying for that particular item. So once you pay for that particular item, you are paying actually for the final product. So you are not adding up the value of intermediate products. Now in this case, soda, lime, they are all intermediate products. Okay. So why are we adding the value of the final products? We are adding the value of the final products or the finished product because it already includes the value of the intermediate products. So therefore, when we calculate or when we want to find out the total production of any sector, we have to see the final value of the goods and services. Final value already includes the values of the intermediate products which are required in the production. Let us take one more example. Suppose you have to buy a biscuit packet. Now biscuit will require different ingredients which the manufacturer will buy at different stages from different people, and then he will manufacture a biscuit. We are not separately paying for the ingredients, we are paying for the final product because the final product already includes the value of the intermediate products which are required in the production. So while calculating the total production of the sector, we take the final value of the product. So students, you have understood the concept, what is final value or what is finished product. Okay. So we'll go to the next part of the lesson, that is the GDP, that is the gross domestic product. Now to calculate the GDP or the gross domestic product, we have to know the final value of the goods and services produced in each of these sectors. Okay. So the value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that particular year. So if we want to calculate the GDP, we have to know the total value or the final value of all the goods and services produced in each of these three sectors. Then we have to add the value of goods and services produced in each sector. So GDP means the sum production in the three sectors of the economy, and it gives us what is called the gross domestic product. So the sum production in all three sectors of the economy in a particular year the final value of goods and services produced in each sector, and when we add all these values of all three sectors, then we get what is called the GDP or the gross domestic product. In simple words, GDP means the final value of the goods and services produced in primary sector plus secondary sector plus the tertiary sector. So who calculates the GDP? Now calculating GDP is not an easy task. It's a very complex operation, and in India it is done by the central government. Okay. Now how does the central government does this? It does this with the help of government departments of various states and the union territories. Now what these government departments do in each and every state and the union territories? They collect information which is related to the total volume of goods and services that are produced in each of these sectors, and then they find out their prices, and then they estimate the gross domestic product or what is called the GDP. Let us see historically which sector was more important. As we know that when man started farming, he started to live a settled life. Therefore, historically, the primary sector was the most important sector. Okay. As the method of farming changed, agriculture sector began to prosper. You can see here some pictures. In these pictures, you can see here that now we are using the modern methods of farming, like we have modern methods for irrigation, we have mechanized farming. So farming developed, and because of this development, people started practicing different other occupations also, and slowly they started selling the natural products and trading activities started. With this came the manufacturing sector, as new methods of manufacturing were invented. Factory system came up and factory system started expanding. People began to work in factories and goods were made using machines. They were of better quality, maybe of cheaper price. So slowly the secondary sector started gaining importance and the secondary sector became important. Okay, you can see here that the textile industry started developing rapidly with the introduction of the machines. Okay, therefore secondary sector started developing and it became important. Now slowly the next sector, that is the tertiary sector, started rising, flourishing, and the tertiary sector became important in the economy. Now let us see why did the tertiary sector became important since 2003. Now we know that government has the responsibility of providing basic services such as hospitals, education facilities, post and telegraph, defense, transport, and these are all part of the tertiary sector. So when these services are given or delivered by the government, obviously the tertiary sector is going to prosper. Then with the development of agriculture and industry, automatically it leads to the development of the tertiary sector, because in order to develop the primary and the secondary sector, the services are provided by the tertiary sector in the form of transport, trade, communication and so many other ways. So obviously with the development of primary and the secondary sector, that is industries and agriculture, tertiary sector is automatically developed. Then as income level rises, people start demanding new services. Our standard of living rises and we demand more and more services. Like we demand shopping, we want to go shopping, we want to go to the private hospitals, we want to take education abroad, or maybe we want to take education in reputed private institutions where we have to pay high fees. So because of all these things, the tertiary sector is booming, and it has developed on a very large scale. Then new services based on information technology also have become very, very important and essential today, and they are generating lots of money. They are generating lots of money for the tertiary sector. So let us compare and see all these three sectors now. Okay, let us see the GDP, what they have contributed towards the GDP. So let us compare these three sectors now in terms of production as well as in terms of employment. I'll put the graph for your benefit. You can see here in 1973, when the GDP was calculated, the primary sector was the largest producing sector. Okay, and then it was tertiary, and then it was the secondary sector. But when the GDP was calculated in the year 2003, tertiary sector took over, and it became the most important sector in terms of production or in terms of value. Okay, in terms of value, the tertiary sector became more important. It produced almost 55% of the GDP, whereas in agriculture it was 25%, and the secondary sector also produced 25% of the GDP. But if you can see here towards the right, it is given in the form of percentages here. It is very clear that we are referring here to the GDP of 1973, where agriculture sector produced 45% and tertiary sector was producing 35%. But when in 2003 it was compared, it was observed that the tertiary sector became more important in terms of the value of the services it generated. Okay, let us now compare the share of employment in all three sectors, taking these two particular years, that is 1973 and 2000. In 1973, you will find that almost 74% of the people in India were engaged in primary sector, and very few people were engaged in the secondary and the tertiary sector. But if you look at the graph which shows the data of 2000, it is still primary sector is dominant. But if you compare the value of the goods and services that are produced in these three sectors and you compare it with the employment, you will find that although large number of people are engaged, or majority of the people are engaged in the primary sector, they are not producing the majority of the goods in terms of value as far as GDP is concerned. Okay, the tertiary sector is more dominant here in this case, where it is producing more value in terms of GDP. Let us put these figures again in a different way. In 1973, primary sector share in GDP was 45%, employment share was 75%. In secondary, 20 and 10. Look at tertiary sector, share in GDP was 35%, but employment was just 15%. But look at the second column, second table here, wherein in primary the GDP contribution is just 25%, and almost 61% people are engaged in the primary sector, whereas in tertiary sector it is exactly opposite, almost opposite, where it is producing 55% of the value of the GDP and only 22% employment. That means that in primary sector, although more people are employed, they are producing very less goods in terms of value. If you calculate the value, they are producing very less goods. That means that although more people are engaged in the agricultural sector, they are producing less goods. Now why this is happening? This is happening because their labor is divided. Okay, their labor is divided, and this is a situation of underemployment. Now what is underemployment? It is a situation where people are apparently working, but all of them are made to work less than their potential. Everybody is not working to their full potential. Their labor efforts are divided. That means more people are engaged, but they are producing less goods. So this kind of underemployment is also called disguised unemployment. Why it is called disguised unemployment? Because this kind of unemployment is hidden. Okay, this kind of employment is hidden. In contrast, with someone who does not have a job and clearly visible as unemployed. So in underemployment, what happens is that everybody seems to be employed, but they are not working to their full potential, and therefore it is hiding certain things from us. Therefore it is called disguised unemployment. Now, but how can we create employment, especially in the rural areas? Okay, as we know that India is a country where majority of the people are engaged in agriculture. So it is mandatory, it is urgent, it is urgently needed that we develop our agricultural sector. And to develop our agricultural sector, we have to improve the infrastructure which is required to create more employment in the agricultural sector. So what can we do in this regard? What can the government do in this regard? The government should construct more dams and canals to improve the irrigation. So this will create employment in the agricultural sector, as farmers will be able to grow more crops. Okay, then creating agricultural infrastructure along with proper roads, storage facilities is also very, very important, so that farmers can store the stock of the food grains and sell it in the market when the prices are high. So government has to develop rural roads, government has to provide storage facilities, government has to construct irrigation projects. Another thing what the government can do is provide cheap credit to the farmers. Okay, government has to provide cheap credit to the farmers so that they can buy the required material which is required, like fertilizers, seeds, machines like pumps, tractors, so they can improve the agriculture in their particular, area. Government should also provide them cheap credit facilities, maybe at a low rate of interest, so that they can buy all the required material which is required in farming, like fertilizers. They will require machines like tractors, pumps, they will require seeds. So these three things have to be done by the government in order to improve the employment situation or to generate goods of more value in the agricultural sector. In the semi-rural areas, as you can see on the screen here, irrigation facilities, rural roads, storage facilities and agricultural loans should be provided. Now government is providing lots of facilities through Kisan credit card and many other schemes which are started by the government for the farmers. In the semi-rural areas, the government can promote and locate industries which process products like dal, so that when we manufacture it, it produces a product of higher value, it can generate more income as well as employment to the people, or by setting up industries that process vegetable and agricultural product which will promote employment in industries, or in villages near forest areas farmers can start honey collection centers where farmers can come and sell wild honey so that more employment can be generated. Or government also has to provide storage facilities to the farmers to store products like potato, onion, and sell them when the prices are high in the market. In certain areas, government has to focus on tourism and regional craft industries depending upon the potential in each region. But all these things cannot be done on a short-term basis. All these things can be done on long-term basis. So to generate employment and livelihood, government has started many schemes, and one of the very popular scheme is the National Rural Employment Guaranteed Act, which was passed in 2005. It's a scheme sponsored by the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Now, it is also known as Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guaranteed Act. It is also called the right to work because it provides 100 days guaranteed employment to the people who are willing to work and who are able to work. It assures 100 days employment in a year. What if the government is unable to provide employment? The government, according to this scheme, will pay the unemployment allowance to the people who are not provided employment of 100 days in a year. So through this scheme, government has generated lots of employment, and the preference which is given is the preference which is given through this scheme is to the work which will increase production from the land in future. So National Rural Employment Guaranteed Act is a very important scheme which has generated lots of employment. So what are the features of this act? This act is called Right to Work, and under this act all those who are able to and are in need of work have been guaranteed 100 days of employment in a year by the government. It also assures that if the government fails in its duty to provide employment, it will give unemployment allowance to the people. So students, with this I end this session. Thank you very much.